Okay, now we're going to look at an example of finding probabilities using the relative frequency approach, which is an empirical approach. Suppose we have a paint retail store and they want to assess probability of how many gallons of paint of a particular kind that they will sell in a day. So let's assume that they collected data from the past 200 days. Okay. Let's assume that it's a random sample. That means the sample is representative of the process. Okay. And from that 200 sample, they figured out that out of that 200, 40 days they had no sales at all. 80 days, 1 gallon. 50 days, 2 gallons. 20 days, 3 gallons. 10 days, 4 gallons. Okay, let's head over to Excel and let's enter that. The possible demands are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, once again, remember we need to make sure that we have everything properly formatted. You don't want the label left aligned and the numbers right aligned. So okay, let's do it that way. And the frequencies are, these. Okay. Now the relative frequency. So here, let's also define what these are. So these are variable of interest is demand. Okay, daily demand for white latex paint. Okay. And the sample of daily demands is 200 randomly selected working days. Okay. And those 200 days worked out to be distributed in this fashion. Okay, now to find the relative frequency, what we have to do is to first sum these individual frequencies, which should of course coincide with the random sample size, 200. Now if you divide that 200 into each of these frequencies, that will give us the proportion of time. Okay, we had 0 demand. Proportion of time we had 1 gallon demand. Okay, so that is called relative frequency. Okay, relative frequency here is we want to take that frequency and we want to divide by that. Okay. In Excel, we can change the way in which the cells are referenced to either relative or absolute. Okay, relative is the default, meaning what we have right now is relative. C13 divided by C18. Now the idea is that we shouldn't have to type this formula individually one cell after the next, and that's too time consuming and laborious. So we should be able to enter the formula in one cell, and then we should be able to copy that formula down to the rest of the cells. But the problem with the way I have set up the formula right now is when I copy this formula down to the next cell, C13 will change to C14 and C18 will also change to C19, which is a blank cell, 0. So you'll get an error. We want C13 to change to C14, C15 and so on, but we want C18 to stay put right there. So that is called absolute address. Now we can do absolute address by inserting dollar signs in front of C and in front of the row. Okay, and you can do that by pressing the F4 key, the function 4. If I press that, the dollar signs are automatically inserted. Then you click enter. Now if I copy, so make a plus, hold the mouse and drag. So now I have the formulas, and then you see C18 remains at C18 because of those two dollar signs. And once again, I'm going to format this to have all the same number of decimal places. You need to make sure that the model looks good. Okay. Now, these relative frequencies are our estimated probabilities. So these are based on empirical results. So this will be probability that demand is 0. This will be probability demand is 1, and so on. Alright, so now let's do some more formatting here again. You see these are not lined up properly. So let's do that. And then we'll insert a border line at the bottom. Okay. So now what we have is a probability distribution where these relative frequencies are all probabilities valued between 0 and 1. These are these comprise all the possibilities. The demand can be only one of these numbers, 0 through 4. So which means if we sum, okay, here we already have a sum formula, so we can copy this over to the next column, and that should be equal to 1. Okay, if not, if this is not equal to 1, then you don't have a valid probability distribution. Remember the two basic rules. Each probability must be a value between 0 and 1, and the sum of the probabilities of all possibilities, okay, should be equal to 1.